It's so good to see all of these faces here tonight. I want to thank all of you for coming out this evening for another edition of our training for our leaders who are going to take our districts to even new heights. I bring greetings on behalf of District Governor-elect Lyle Chase, my brother and cohort in doing some great things in our Rotary world this year. We are so excited that you have taken on the mantle to become leaders, but more importantly, that together we're going to do some great things. Tonight is about membership. And as I've encouraged my incoming leaders, our first priority is to keep them. Then we need to concentrate on getting them. So let's make sure that our Rotarians are having some of the most absolutely fantastic experiences in the club so that the radiance that they have, the glow, will cause others to want to come and join us. I welcome you to the session. I trust that you enjoy it and look forward to hearing your comments, your questions, and working with you. Thank you. Good evening.
And thank you, Charles. Appreciate that. And thank you, Charles. Thank you, Lyle, both of you, for having the wisdom and the vision to put this together for all of our countries, for our 2 districts in the Caribbean. I think this is fabulous, and we're all going to get to know each other, at least how we look on the screen. So thanks. First of all, it is my pleasure and my honor to introduce my friend, past president of Rotary International, Ian Risley. Ian is an accountant. We forgive him for that. He is from Australia. And you know, when in 1977, one of his clients invited him to speak to the Rotary Club of Cheltenham, and he gave a talk on income tax, exciting stuff. He did a few other talks and then became a charter member of the Rotary Club of Sandringham in 1978. Beat me by 2 years. By the end of the 70s, we knew we were talking about women in Rotary. Well, he led the willingness and the desire to push Rotary to make sure we brought women into Rotary, and he'll be remembered for doing that. He's been a significant effort in the Rotary International's effort to eradicate polio. He's a current trustee, a past member of the board of directors. I might add his wife, Juliet, was the charter president of the Rotary Club of Hampton, and she became that in 1995. In 1718, Ian was the president of Rotary International, and he was the 5th president from Australia to be president of Rotary International. But you know, I remember Ian from a much more personal level. When I was selected to be a member of the board of directors way back when, and I got in a little late, as you may remember. You know, that's my habit of, I don't get the usual time, but I got in a little late. And when I walked into the boardroom that first time, scared out of my mind, not sure what I was going to be doing there. I missed all the orientation that everybody else had, but I had the privilege of sitting to the left of Ian Risley. He was my mentor immediately, helping me get through the hurdle of understanding how to be a board member, and I'll always appreciate that. He's a friend, he's a fantastic Rotarian, he's a true leader in our Rotary world, and we couldn't be more privileged to have a speaker like Ian Risley to bring us greetings all the way from Australia to the Caribbean. Please welcome, in our usual Caribbean fashion, past President Ian Risley.
Well, thank you, Barry. Do I take credit for everything that you've done since you joined the board? That's excellent. I appreciate that. I'll do that with great gusto. Good evening, your time. It's a pleasure to be with the 357 participants that are on this call. It's fabulous. I appreciate the invitation from my friend Barry to send greetings. He said I had 5 minutes. I begged him for 10 because I normally don't say hello in 5 minutes. So Barry, past President Barry, thank you very much. Now I understand in addition to the president-elect, there are other district leaders on the line, which is really good because you're talking about membership and so on. But I'd like to address my first comments to the presidents-elect. I hope you folks have heard of a fellow called Glenn Kinross. He was president of Rotary International way back in the late 90s, and he was a fine Australian leader. he's on record as saying that his year as club president was his best time in all of Rotary. I'm happy for Glenn. That actually wasn't my experience, and I don't have time today to tell you why, but under any circumstances, it was a learning experience. But however, you need to be assured that the position of club president is the most important role in all of Rotary, the most important role. And that's because our organisation is completely at the moment club-based. Currently, you can't be a Rotarian without being a member of a Rotary club one way or another. And the person who sets the tone for every club is the president. Like it or not, it's the tone setter. If the president carries the entire club with him or her in pursuit of agreed club goals, you really can be a part of Rotary making a difference. Barry, notice the subtle way I included that theme in there. Rotary making a difference. When I was club president almost 40 years ago, the secret to whatever success we had was that I surrounded myself with good, dedicated, and supportive people within the club. I gave them collective ownership of the decisions we made as a club board and communicated with them regularly to encourage them and to seek their input. The president, after all, is a member of a team, and really important we remember that, and everyone was given a job, and I think that was one of the things that that was really important. The other comment I would make is you really cannot take yourself too seriously in this world, and that includes being club president. You do your best, but if something does go wrong, don't try and be a politician and bluff your way through, because it'll be transparently obvious that you don't know what you're talking about and you're trying to snow your fellow club members. If you do something wrong, recognize it, admit it, apologize if that's appropriate, smile, really important you keep on smiling, and move on. If you try and bluff your way through it, you will lose credibility. As an organisation, we need to be especially grateful, in my opinion, to those Rotarians who take on the role of club president for the second time, sometimes more than two. It'd be really easy for those folks to say, no, I've done my bit, and leave it to somebody else. The club has come to you for leadership, and you have stepped up to the plate. I was trying to think of a cricket analogy, but I can't think of one. Step up to the plate and accept that leadership role and meet the needs of the club. I say bravo to you for that. Now, Barry has told me that today you're focusing on membership. An excellent topic, because we know that members are the, it's not too strong to say, the lifeblood of our organisation. Because without members, we're nothing. We're not doing good in the world. We're not making a difference. We're not being the inspiration. We're nothing. So members are vital. And there's a downward membership trend in established Rotary countries like the USA, Britain, and Australia, offset by gains in Asia. I'm not sure how it is in the Caribbean area, even though I visited both of those districts when I was president and loved my time there. I'm very proud of the fact that there for the first visit for 7 days, 8 countries in 7 days, didn't put my toe in that beautiful water once, but there you go, I need to come back. But it's really important that we focus on membership, and unless we address the membership issue and problem, Rotary needs a strong North American membership, and that's the challenge that we all have. We need a strong Australian membership too, and I'm working on that along with the club and district leaders down here. But my advice to you is, when you identify a potential member, don't try and sell Rotary membership as a duty that good people have to do. Instead, it's an opportunity for them and a privilege for them to be invited to join your club. It shouldn't be offered to just anyone, so be certain that your club would be in good hands if they join. I have seen, particularly in my country, examples where if you're upright and breathing, they invite you into the Rotary Club. That is a mistake. You need to make sure that folks are embracing ethics and the four-way test and all of those kind of things before you entrust with them the very important thing, which is our Rotary clubs. Really important. So when you're talking to potential members, remember why you are a member of the club and explain to them why good people should want to be a Rotarian and a member of your Rotary club. This is currently the most important administrative task we have in all of Rotary. So no pressure, incoming presidents, no pressure, but we're all relying on you. No pressure, but we're relying on you. Barry, I'm really pleased at the fact that I've taken 6 minutes instead of 10. So therefore, allow me to tell you a quick story. I mentioned that my experience as club president wasn't exactly the best. And let me give you an example of why. Totally out of my hands. I'm an accountant, as Barry mentioned, and I appreciate your sympathy. And one of the most important things for an accountant is to have a club treasurer who knows what he or she is doing. I inherited a club treasurer who did not produce one financial report for the entire year. And that makes it ever so slightly difficult for the president of the day. You just got to smile and keep going. You've just got to, in the end, I did the damn thing myself, but you really do have to look at the good rather than the bad. Otherwise, you get really bogged down. And a final comment, I mentioned that it's really important to give a job to everyone. There was one of our charter members, and I was a charter member at the relatively young age of 31, and it says something about our organisation when 31 is young. One of the charter members, a dear friend, subsequently recently died, didn't want to be particularly involved. He said he was happy to be along and be supportive, but he didn't want to do anything. And he's the best joke teller I have ever heard. So I asked him, his only role was to be the club joke master. Every club meeting, he told a joke. Now, being Australian, it was hard to find one clean joke every week, but he did pretty well. And if the joke was good, we laughed at the joke. If the joke was lousy, we laughed at him, but we still laughed. He got the feeling that he was contributing, and that's important. He became part of the club. I'll leave you with that message. Barry, what a pleasure to be with you. I'm looking forward to coming back to the beautiful Caribbean area, because I do need to dip my toe into the water. Cheers.
Yes, you do, Ian. Thank you so much for coming and joining us. I don't know if you've had your cup of coffee yet this morning, but if not, get some caffeine.
Well, I need to tell you that we had a finance committee that finished at 1:30 this morning, so so no, not yet, but I'm working on it.
Yes. We're all getting addicted to the Zoom. But Ian, thank you so much for taking the time to join us and share your thoughts, and watching everybody online. Clearly, everybody was making notes and getting some good little trinkets to help them as they become president. And they now, I think, are sure they understand their importance in the Rotary world. It's not you and me, it's the Rotary Club president. And that's so important for everybody to understand. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for sharing some great tidbits of information with us. And now we have...
It's a pleasure to be with you. Cheers, folks. Have a good year.
Thank you. Now we have the privilege to see another one of Rotary's amazing videos. Now we have an opportunity to hear as our keynote speaker, one of our own, past District Governor Felix Stubbs. And I know you all know Felix. But... Okay.
Good. Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me?
Hold on, Felix. I don't know why this video is going.
Eradication isn't just possible, it's plausible. Every day we're investing in a new generation of leaders so we can continue to provide.
Okay, not quite sure what happened there. My apologies for the technology or my lack of knowledge, one or the other. But I want the opportunity to introduce to you our keynote speaker, past District Governor Felix, a member of the Nassau Sunrise Club. He's also a charter member, I might add, and a good friend of mine twisted his arm to join that club since he wouldn't join our club for many years. But we finally got him into an early morning to fit his time and what he was looking for in Rotary. He's currently the chairman of Doctors Hospital, and it's so good. I told you the other night, CEO Charles Seeley, I could walk away from the hospital, and Chairman Felix Stubbs, they no longer need me there, and it's fantastic. They're doing a fantastic job of running the organization. Felix is on so many boards that I don't have time to tell you all of them. He's head of Salvation Army. He's in the Young Presidents Association, Young Presidents Organization. His career was in IBM, so he understands all the technology. He's currently a member of the Disaster Committee for the district and for the Bahamas, and is instrumental in helping us do the projects we have to do after each disaster. And right now, of course, we're dealing with two disasters, Dorian and COVID-19. But you know, what I admire most about Felix is his ability to be humble. He's a man of who he is who you see. And I've always just been so appreciative of the way he introduces. He reminds us all that not to forget those locally who are one of us who have done other positions. Too often we forget in our own local world, and we're all friends with everybody and we're all equals, which is true, but we forget about what they have accomplished. And I always respect that he makes a point never to forget that. And Felix understands membership and our challenges, and he's going to bring us a fantastic message tonight. So please welcome, in our Caribbean manner of all of the Caribbean and the Bahamas, past District Governor Felix Stubbs.
Thank you and good afternoon, past Rotary International President Barry. With a wonderful pleasure to be introduced by a past Rotary International President. I'll put that on my resume. So Rotarians from District 7020 and 7030, Presidents-elect, Secretaries-elect, Road actors, membership chairs as well, I'm told. It's a pleasure for me to try and bring some brief words to you this afternoon, but I think the real learning is going to come in the question and answer period that you participate in. And since we have a past president and we have our district governor on the call and will be available for the question and answer, I'm going to invite them to help me with the question and answer session. So I'm going to be going through some slides. Put your questions into the chat box and we'll try and address them at the end of the session. The other reason why it's a pleasure for me to speak with you this evening is because my current role in Rotary now is, I guess my substantive role is the Assistant Rotary Coordinator for Districts 7,000, 720, and 7030. So I'm just delighted I've got two of my districts that I'm responsible for to speak with tonight. So I'm going to now try and share my screen and we'll go into the presentation. So tonight we're going to talk about why they leave. You heard District Governor-elect Charles say just a while ago that we need to do a better job of making sure the people we bring into Rotary, we keep. that we close that back door, and then it becomes a lot easier to grow our Rotary clubs and to grow Rotary. So let me just tell a little bit about membership. So currently, we have about 1.2 million members in Rotary. We have about 35,000 clubs, just over 35,000 clubs. 46% of our Rotarians on a global basis are between the ages of 50 to 69, while only 6.3% are under 40. And in Rotary itself, 23.5% of our members are Rotarians, sorry, are female. I thought I'd put this slide in here though, just to show you some updated numbers, because those numbers were at the end of 2019. So if you look at the Rotary membership tonight, as it was of 7 o'clock this morning, we've grown Rotary by about 9,000 people this year, right, compared to last year. And when you compare that to the last 5 years, you see that we've probably only grown Rotary about, well, actually we're falling behind by 6,000 people. But the other thing I wanted to show you on this chart is if you look at the last 3 districts at the bottom, there's 14 districts, District 7,000, 7020, and 7030. And you look out to the far right-hand corner, you notice that District 7020 is leading our zone in membership growth at the moment. District 77,000 is second with 53 members. And District 7030 is third with 34 members. But the significant thing about District 7030 is even though they're third this year, they led the zone last year in membership growth. And so when Ian spoke about the fact that in North America and Asia and England and New Zealand and Australia, they're losing members. And even if you look at the numbers in our zone, where we may be up 226 members, the bulk of that is from 7,000, 7020, and 7030. I want to congratulate all of you, presidents-elect, secretaries-elect, and membership chairs for the wonderful job we've done in the past, and to looking forward to you to continue that going in the future. Just a quick look at our membership history over the last 5 years. From 2015, you notice that we lost about 15,000 members over the last from the last 5 years, from 2015, we're down 15,000 members. And as I said to you just a while ago, so far for this Rotary year, we're up 9,000 members. So when you look at the current membership numbers, we're still 6,000 members less than we were in 2015. Well, let me go back just quickly. Something else I want to share with you. I'll go back to my first chart, sorry. When you look at District 7020, you see that at the Rotary International level, women make up 23.5% of membership. In District 7020, that number is 41.6%. In District 30, that number is 31%, but growing very rapidly. When you look at the membership in districts, in District 7020, we're now at 2,480, so we're growing. And District 7030, we're at 2,262. So the question we're asking ourselves tonight is, why do members leave Rotary? And when you look at the global picture, 40% of our members say they leave because it is too costly, or they can't find the time to make the meetings. 29% say that the club environment is not right. And 16% say when they came in with high expectations, those expectations were not met, and so they left. When you look at, when you speak to young people between the ages of 20 to 29, they will tell you that the club environment or the club culture was not their expectation. That's just a euphemistic way of saying our clubs are boring. And then the other significant statistic says 52% of members leave Rotary within 3 years of joining. So you can see that we really have a revolving door. We don't have a problem with getting members. We have a problem with keeping our members. So what are some of the behaviors that are causing people to leave Rotary? And I've chosen 25 popular reasons. We probably won't discuss all of them because we don't have enough time. But let me go through some of the key ones. And the first one I say is poor club leadership. And it is important that we talk about this because when you have leaders leading clubs and they're not doing as good a job as they ought to do, they lose the respect of their members, the members lose enthusiasm, and people start walking out of the door. And one of the reasons we're having this, we think, is because more and more younger people are coming into Rotary, younger people are beginning to get leadership positions. They don't have the same level of leadership experience as past Rotarians. Well, that is something that we can do something about. And you would notice, many of you would notice that when you look at how we ran DTTS, District Leadership Training, and if you look at what we're doing here with PETS for 70-20 and 70-30, we're not focusing on teaching you about Rotary, because we expect that when you get to the positions where you ought to know Rotary. The focus is on trying to help you to deliver or develop your leadership skills. Because if you know a little bit about Rotary and a lot about leadership, you could have a successful year. Because don't forget, your role as leaders is not to do everything, but to be the motivators of all the other members in your club, so together you all do well. I think Ian just spoke about the proper screening of quality members. If we are going to ensure that we have good Rotarians, we just can't go out and pick up any and everybody. There are some criteria that we ought to be following. We need to make sure that the members or the potential members we bring to the club can pass the 4-way test. They understand that what the objects of Rotary is, and that they could meet that criteria, and that they have a desire to do community service. Now, I am of the personal belief that if you can find someone with the right characteristics, you can teach them to be a good Rotarian. The third one I put down was improper induction ceremonies. And you may think this is a small thing, but to the new Rotarian coming into a club, this is a big moment for them. Many of them bring their families to witness their induction into Rotary. And so when we're doing inductions, we ought to treat them with, and I'm going to use the word reverence. It ought to be special. We can't have someone up there doing the induction speech and members sitting at the tables, reading their cell phones or talking to one another. We have to give these new members coming into Rotary the respect they deserve and make them feel that we really want them to be coming into Rotary. So treat your induction ceremonies with reverence. Many clubs don't even have good orientation programs for their new members. I remember when I joined Rotary many years ago as a charter member, I didn't have a clue as to what I was supposed to be doing. So I just sat in the back of the room and listened to the speaker, and when the meeting was ended, I left. Fortunately, some other things happened that caused me to stay. But if we don't properly orientate our members and get them actively engaged as soon as they become members, they're going to become distracted, they're going to become disillusioned, and they will leave within that 3-year window. And so that's what I'm saying for number 5. You've got to make sure you keep them involved. Another thing that I want to implore that you do is that many members, in fact, all new members, come with some kind of a sponsorship. There's some Rotarian who is sponsoring them as a new member. And far too often, the sponsor members bring someone into Rotary, and immediately after that person is inducted, that's the last time they have anything to say, not to say to that member, but that's the last time they act as a sponsor to that member. They leave that member on his or her own. And I think that the sponsor ought to take the role that they have a long-term responsibility, at least 2 years, to make sure that that new member becomes properly acclimatized to Rotary and to the Rotary culture, to make sure that any obstacles that a new member arise at, that new member has someone that they can turn to. And if I talk to number 8, it is not the responsibility of the new member, Rotarians, to come into a meeting and to introduce themselves to each of the members. I think the obligation is on members to introduce themselves to the new member and make the new member feel welcome. If that happens, then I think you find that the new member would feel a little bit more comfortable and be willing to stay with the new friends he's made. I'm not going to talk to cliques because we all know what they are. We should avoid them as much as possible. But item 10 is, as leaders, we need to understand who and what our members are. What are their skills? What it is that they like? So when we put them in committees, we don't have inappropriate matches where someone's talents don't match the responsibilities we're asking them to perform. We talked about involvement. This is what no meaningful club projects. If you have a club and all your club does is have meetings, whether it's in person or now via Zoom, but you have opportunities for members to do club projects, you're going to have difficulties keeping your members. Because while many members join for fellowship and fun, it is the ability to get involved with projects to make a difference in your community is the real hook that keep people involved and engaged. We talked about young people calling Rotary meetings boring. Oftentimes it's too formal. If you look at the Rotary manual procedures, you'll probably see in there a suggested agenda for Rotary meetings. Let me say that to you, that is only a guide. It isn't a law. You don't have to have your meetings that way. You can have meetings that appeal to your audience. If you have a club that's made up of young people, you may want to have meetings that are, I don't know, more fun-based. If they're older folks, they may want to be a little bit more formal. But then you also have to remember that in most clubs, you have older folks as well as younger folks, and so you have to reach a happy medium. But the point I want to make is that you can be inflexible. You have to be able to change your meeting format so that you can keep people motivated and engaged. Similar with wrong meeting times and places. If you're having a lunchtime meeting, and I know like here in the Bahamas, it takes half an hour to get to a meeting and half an hour to get back from a meeting, and then you have a meeting that lasts 1 hour with half an hour fellowship. You're away from your office for 2.5 hours. And if you're not a business owner or a president or a chief executive officer, you probably can't take 2.5 hours off for lunch 1 day a week on a regular basis. And so a lunchtime meeting may not be appropriate for some of your members. So sometimes, instead of having those members leave your club, you may want to have flexible meeting times so that you can accommodate all your meetings. And then as it relates to place, I'll give you an example. I know a club that the majority of the members are now well over 65. But the club meets on the second floor of a restaurant, and you have to walk up the stairs. Well, the reason a lot of the older members don't come to meetings anymore is because they can't get up the stairs. Right? And so if you have a place that makes it physically impossible for the members to get to, you're going to have challenges. And then again, if you have a small smoky room and only 2 of your members smoke, you're going to have challenges. So those are the kind of things you need to be mindful of. They may be insignificant to you as a president or a vice president or membership chair, but it may be very sensitive to one of your members and it costs them to leave. 15, poor order planning and objectives. I was also that, if I look at that and compare that, combine that with complacency, indifference, and apathy, you can kind of wrap them around this whole issue of strategic planning, right? If your club doesn't have a 3-year strategic plan, and if you're not updating that plan on an annual basis, and if all your members are not participating in the development of that plan, then you have a challenge. Make sure that when you're doing a strategic plan, it's not just for your executive committee or your board, it's for all your members, and everybody needs to participate, and everybody should have a voice in helping to put that plan together. Similarly, if you have rules and regulations in your club, and you let 1 or 2 members consistently break those rules without any consequences, you're going to start to have indifference and apathy amongst your members, because they're going to feel that if John Brown can get away with not following the rules, then why should I? And so as presidents and leaders of your clubs, make sure that you treat everybody equal and everybody follow the same rules. This lack of proper recognition. Let me just touch on that briefly, because oftentimes I see presidents walk into a meeting and they congratulate the club on a wonderful community service program the week before. And that is fine. But I can tell you that there's someone sitting in your meetings who's saying, you know, I think I went beyond the call of duty on that project. And it would have been nice if the president had singled me out just to say, thank you, Felix, for a wonderful job. So even though as Rotarians, it is our calling to serve, I don't think any Rotarian would say, I don't want to be, or have a pat on the back to say good job from time to time, because that is what motivates us. And as leaders, our job is to motivate our members, always. We need to be able to not just look at them as members of the club, but we need to be able to know each of them on a personal basis, to understand their strengths, their weaknesses, to know from their body languages when things are not going right, so that you could make an intervention. And it is not to try and do it from a podium, but it'll be much more appreciated if you, from time to time, pick up your telephone and call a member and say, hey, guy, I'm thinking about you. It makes a difference. And this is a rhetorical question. How many times have you seen in your meetings where your board has had a board meeting, they come to a club meeting, and nobody reports on the board meeting? It happens far too often. I think it's very important that we make sure we keep good communications between the officers of the club and its members, because otherwise you're going to build distrust. Okay. I'm not going to talk about the expense of the meeting, but different clubs have different issues with expense, whether it's the meals you have to pay for, the cost of the venue, the cost of the socials. You need to be very mindful, especially in these very difficult economic times, that cost is going to be an issue. And like we saw in the initial chart, it is the #1 reason why most people leave Rotary. So I've kind of shared with you a number of reasons why people leave. It all sounds kind of negative. But if you think about it, all of our clubs have some of those things with them. If we are in a club and we think we don't have any of those issues, then we're just putting our head in the sand, and the day of reckoning will come. So we need to be vigilant, especially as leaders, to understand these little subtleties in our club, to make sure where we see some of these issues occurring, we jump on them quickly, address them effectively, and I'll tell you, your retention rates will soar. But I just don't want to tell you about what are the issues why people leave. Let's talk about some of the reasons why, or some of the things we can do to make them stay. So let's talk about some of the focus programs that Rotary has that we ought to be taking advantage of. This is one that we don't have in many of our districts. I'm not sure if District 7030 has it, but I know we don't do it in District 7020. So I'm recommending it. Why don't we have a district chair for retention? And why don't we also duplicate that at the club level? And by the way, it doesn't have to be a separate committee. We could make the person responsible for retention part of the membership committee, but their sole responsibility is to focus on retention and to help to design retention programs that will keep our members engaged. Rotary spent a lot of time trying to make it possible for clubs to be flexible. But I just feel that our clubs are not moving fast enough to take advantage of the opportunities that are before them. So as presidents-elect, I'm going to encourage you to read the booklet about club flexibility and to see what applies to your club and how you can make your club more attractive to your members and more flexible to your members. When I spoke to you earlier about the 3 main reasons why members leave Rotary, the reason we know that is because when people leave Rotary, we do exit interviews. And so we can get a feeling for why they leave. Unfortunately, in the 3 districts that I have, 7,000, 720, and 7030, we don't do a good job of exit interviews. So we don't have good empirical data as to why people leave. We surmise why they leave based on what's happening in Rotary International, but it could be different because of our culture. So we need to, if people are going to leave, ask them to do an exit interview. And you would find that people will be very honest with you as to why they're leaving Rotary. If you can get that data and understand and look and see if there's a pattern within your club, you should quickly address that, and that will help to stem the flow of people leaving. We also need to explain to members some benefits that they can get from Rotary. Rotary, 3-4 years ago, announced a program called Global Rewards. I have heard about people who have used Global Rewards to pay for their Rotary membership. That's from the savings they get. This is where Rotary is bringing a benefit to the individual. It's like American Express. You get an American Express card and they give you a free membership to Priority Pass at the airport lounges. Rotary is giving you the opportunity to get significant discounts at thousands of businesses globally. Also, a good program that I know past President Barry was very instrumental in getting into Rotary is our partnership with Toastmasters. It's an opportunity for Rotarians to learn good communication skills that Toastmasters are famous for without having to join Toastmasters. You can do it as Rotarians. So when you're talking to your members, make sure they understand that in addition to serving their community, there are some personal benefits to them that they ought to be taken advantage of. Now let's talk about education. I know all of you have heard about RLI, Rotary Leadership Institute. It is one of the most effective programs we have, I think, in making Rotarians more committed to Rotary. In fact, the numbers I've heard is that when they did statistics, that the people who successfully go through RLI are 5 times more likely to remain a Rotarian for the long term than those who don't. If those statistics are true, then I think it behooves the Rotary Club to do as much as it can to ensure that as many of its members as possible go to RLI, even if you have to try and find the money to subsidize the expense. It is that valuable to you. It's an investment that is well worth it. We also have the Rotary Learning Center. It's an online learning center. You can learn all kinds of things on this thing for personal development. I have the good fortune of getting every week a list of all of the members in District 7020, and I'm going to get it in 7030 as well, who have either registered for or done programs on the Rotary Learning Center. Now, I'll tell you, I see a lot of people registering for programs, but many of them haven't even started it yet. And some have registered and started, and a few of us have completed. I'm encouraging you to take advantage of these programs, especially now. Well, maybe some of you are now going back to work, but if you're home under lockdown, instead of watching a TV program, I shouldn't let my wife hear me say this, instead of watching a TV program, go onto the Rotary.org, go onto the Learning Center, and do some education. Mentoring. We need to make sure we mentor our new employees, new members, because it's through mentoring we're going to make them better Rotarians. And by the way, there is a module on the Rotary Learning Center that can teach you how to be a good mentor. And then I know I speak from personal experience when I say district conferences and international conventions almost mandatory for helping to get Rotarians to understand the breadth of Rotary and to become more committed to Rotary. I still remember my first international convention. I mean, it brings goosebumps on my body just to think about it. But when you go to a convention, you can't leave that convention after 3 or 4 days and not be a committed Rotarian. So encourage people not just to go to district conferences, but to international conventions as well. Opportunity. When a new member comes into your club, find out what their interest is. If they have some personal preferences in terms of projects, see how you can incorporate their preferences into your projects program. Because if a new member comes into Rotary and you immediately help him with something that's important to him or her, you have got, I think, a committed Rotarian. As I said earlier, involve them in committees. Make sure you position them for leadership program, for leadership opportunities. Too often we have, in fact, maybe not in Rotary, but in other organizations I'm in, people want to be in leadership positions for forever. Luckily, you can only be president for 1 year. So you need to make sure that you develop your members so when their time comes to lead, they'll be good leaders. And then we need to make sure we use things like the Rotary Fellowship Program and the Rotary Action Group initiatives, because these are things where with the fellowships, people could combine their interests with other Rotarians around the world who have similar interests, make friends, and share common interests. With action groups, if you have a particular interest in something, be it crime or drug prevention or whatever the case may be, there are action groups centered around those kind of things, and you can use your skills and talents through Rotary to address those concerns. Now, that's a lot of stuff I've tried to share with you over the last 20 minutes, half an hour. And so right now you must be drowning and asking for help. Well, there are lots of ways we can help you. Here are 5 manuals out of the thousands that we already have available that may be of interest to you. As incoming leaders, you may want to do a health check on your club, just to feel where the pulse of the club is, what are the hot spots, the good spots, the bad spots, but mainly to create a baseline so that when you do your plan and you execute your plan, you can measure where you are against your baseline and you know whether you're improving the club or the club is going in the wrong direction. There's a manual on how to strengthen membership. There's a membership assessment tool. There's a manual to teach you how to engage with young professionals. And of course, we talked about this club flexibility manual that will tell you all about the various ways that you can make your club a lot more flexible. And then, of course, there's the other resources available to you. Your club membership committee. Make sure that in each of your clubs, you have a club membership committee, not just a club membership chair. One of the biggest challenges we've had forever, it seems, is that we have committees of one. And that doesn't do the club any good. It doesn't do succession planning any good. So if you have committees, the chairperson of that committee can help to groom his or her members to become maybe a club membership chair or some other chair and put them on a path for leadership. But you have continuity when you have a committee. You also have the district membership committee, and your district membership chair is going to be AG Marcelia Henry from St. Croix. And I mention her only because I have the greatest respect for Marcelia. I think she's going to be a wonderful district membership chair, and she's going to grow 70-20, that is, by loads of numbers. The district membership chair in 70-30, oh, I forgot the name, but we were going to be working very closely together. And so for those of you who are in district 70-30, if you don't know who your district membership chair is, please ask and utilize them properly. Your district governor is also a resource, and assisting your district governor is your zone assistant Rotary coordinator. Unfortunately, that's me. So if none of those people are available, call me and I'll try and help you. And then of course you have a Rotary membership officer. Now, the good thing about this is, you know, your zone assistant Rotary coordinator is from your districts, and your Rotary membership officer is a former member of District 70-20. So we have some people in place who have affinity to the region, who have a special interest into the region, and so please take advantage of them. So those are some of the messages I wanted to leave you with. But before I go, let me just share this last chat with you. And some of you may know Charles Darwin, but he says, "It is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent that survives. It is the one that is most adaptable to change." Your district governor-elects for 70-20, and I'm sure for 70-30 as well, are about change. They're about trying to prepare Rotary for the future. And I'm going to ask you to work with them to ensure that they could make change possible. And if you are prepared to be flexible, to make change happen, to be the change agents in your clubs, I can assure you, your members will follow you, will be committed to you, enjoy your leadership, and you will have the best Rotary year ever. Thank you, congratulations, and good luck.
Thank you so much, Felix. You have given us a wealth of information. If all of our presidents have been making notes and can deal with all of these suggestions and incorporate them into your plans, we know you're going to have a great year. That was an excellent presentation on membership engagement. and retention, and it's fabulous. So we're going to allow 15 minutes for questions. And I have a whole lot of questions here. So I kind of go through these, try to lump some together that are similar. So we may not be able to get to any more from the chat line, but I do have a lot. The first series, Felix, was, okay, how are we going to go about inducting a new member and making the ceremony special for that new member?
And that's a very good question. As a matter of fact, at the zone coordinators meeting just 2 weeks ago, the online meeting, we talked about that. And what we want to do is to do two things. One is to have a common induction ceremony across our districts, because a lot of people do it differently. And if we can develop an induction ceremony that is what I call reverent, that makes people feel special, then I think that will go a long way into helping to make our new members more committed. And so we will work with the district membership chairs, both for District 7020 and 7030. I'll be sharing with them some ideas on how to develop good induction programs, and then they can share with their clubs. The other thing we're also going to do is we're going to look at the orientation program as well, and redevelop that so that there's consistency across the districts, so that when a member comes in, before they even come into the club and is inducted, you already have some kind of expectation of what it is they are to do. And so when they come in, they're pretty much already a Rotarian.
That's great, because there was another question on to kind of give example of a good orientation program. So if you're going to get that to them, that'll be
we will have a well-documented orientation program that the district membership chairs will have.
Okay, thank you for that. A number of questions on Rotaract. Okay, what changes do we need to make in the club to attract Rotaractors and young professionals? So how do we encourage them to join the club? How do we encourage the transition from Rotaract to Rotary? And what do we do about the fact that the cost and the time is one of the barriers for Rotaract joining? That's kind of a group of them in one big one.
Yeah, I think, Barry, why don't I throw that question back to you? Since you are the Rotaract guru, you would be able to better answer that question than I would.
Okay. You know, we have to make our clubs more relevant to young professionals. If we got to look around a room, step back and ask ourselves, are we truly being relevant to young people? Do they want to join our club? And if we don't have any, they probably don't want to. Go out and ask some, what would they want us to do different? That's one. So the club needs to do something different. Rotaract clubs and Rotary clubs should be much closer together. If your Rotary club started a Rotaract club, you should be with them every time they have a meeting and invite them to your Rotary club every time you have a meeting. So you get to know each other. We create relationships, and that gigantic help to transitioning to Rotaract. Many clubs around the world have waived the fees, the dues for Rotaractors in the first 1, 2, or 3 years. They're giving them that opportunity to make the change so that they can handle the cost of it. Time is an issue. If we meet for 2 hours at lunch, that's hard for a young professional to leave their job to do that. So that's a challenge that we have to look at and ask yourself, how about starting a satellite club? Meet right after work, and that'll be much more attractive to the young professionals. We do have the first, Rotary After Dark is the first satellite club in the district. And if you look around that room, well, I'm ancient when I look around that room. A lot of young people, and that's good for them. It's right after work. So again, look at yourselves as a Rotary Club as to what you can do different.
Well done.
It works.
So that's why I like my past president. He knows everything about Rotary.
No, let's see. Lots of questions, but they're all the same. Encourage Rotaract. Could. Okay, a question here. Could junior members in a corporate entity, like a bank teller or a teacher, can they be brought into Rotary clubs?
Yes, they can, and they can be brought in several ways. Well, sorry, at least two ways that I know of immediately. One, they can come in as individual members, and so there's no age limit on being a Rotarian. The criteria is primarily your character and your interest in doing community service and fellowship. And so as long as someone is able to pay the dues, they're of good character, and they want to serve the community, they can become a member of Rotary. But we also now have something called corporate membership. So if a corporation wants to take out membership in Rotary, they can decide with agreement from the Rotary Club which members of that corporation could become part of that corporate membership to Rotary. So there are two ways to do it.
One note on age. Everybody should be aware by now that the upper age for Rotaract has been removed. So it's up to a Rotaract club if they wish to have an upper limit. They're no longer 18 to 30. They're 18 until, and the Rotaract club can open that up so people can stay until they're ready to move into a Rotary club. An interesting question here. We talked about bringing in the members you just mentioned. Somebody has a concern about bringing in members, new members to our clubs when our criteria and the qualities of being a member are so strict, it makes it hard to bring them in.
Yep. In fact, I can answer that, but I see DG Charles lighting up, so he wants to address that too.
That's a good idea.
You're muted, DG.
Sorry, Barry. I got an internet connection challenge when you were saying the question. Say it one more time, please. Sorry about that.
Sorry. There's a concern that we want to bring in new members, and we're talking maybe bank tellers or teachers or whoever, but the criteria bringing into clubs are so strict, and the quality of a member is so strict that it prohibits us from bringing in good people.
That is so easy. Who controls the rules? The club. And so the club sets these rules, and the club can change the rules in its bylaws. And that's one of the powers you have, certainly as a president. The beauty about being president is you have all of those members there as your source of information. And so the inspiration of how you can change your club lies right there. So I would say if the rules are what are causing persons to not be excited about joining your club, then I think you need to sit down and look at those rules again, see if they're worthwhile enough to maintain. And sometimes we're doing things based on legacy and we don't even know why we're doing it. I have this one at my club where at the end of the club meeting, we say a sound and the new members don't understand why we say the sound. Well, this is from one of our founding members who didn't speak English properly, said a word, didn't say it properly, and we all kind of rehearsed it and we continue to chant it. But 30 years later, does it still apply? And so great opportunity for you as presidents to relook at your club. For those in 70-20, I've made two important things that they have to do. One, identify something that you need to stop in your club. What is the one thing in your club that you need to stop doing? And the second thing is, what is the one thing that you need to start doing? That's a good place looking at membership for those two things. Thanks, Barry.
And you heard it from your district governor.
Thank you, District Governor-elect. Interesting question here. Should the clubs be considering changing from meeting weekly to some other timing, every other week or whatever? Should that be a consideration?
It can be. I like consistency to some degree. And the reason why I think that's important is because oftentimes we try to encourage people visiting other countries to visit Rotary clubs. And if you're bouncing all over the place, it makes it difficult for people to find you. Sometimes make it difficult for your members if you're bouncing all over the place. But however, I think there ought to be the flexibility where from time to time, your clubs ought to meet at different times just to give your members who may have to be meeting at the regular time to come to some of the club meetings. And some clubs do it very well, other clubs don't do it well at all. My club, we meet at a different location and a different time, the fourth Thursday every month.
Okay, so remember we're flexible, but make it so that your members know when to be there.
You want to be flexible, but not nomads.
Right, exactly. Okay. There's a concern that, okay, we should go back to basics. We should do a forum. We should do a club assembly. Too many clubs haven't been doing that. But then somebody else came back and said, yeah, well, we have forum, but nothing changes. How do we deal with this going back to basics, doing it, and then even if you do it, there's no improvement?
Yeah, and again, I think it goes back again to strong leadership. When you're just doing things and you're not properly executing, it means that you don't have a proper plan in place and you're not following your plan. If you just have a forum and you don't take any notes from the forum, you don't develop a plan out of the forum, and you're not executing that plan, then things will remain the same. So you got to be very, very careful that you don't have a bunch of meetings, you do a lot of talking, and nobody documents what agreements that you come to. And you should never have meetings where you just talk about something and not bring it to a resolution. I like to have resolutions out of meetings with an action plan to execute on what we resolved.
It's a good question, and Rotary International is dealing with this as well. We're now doing virtual meetings because that's all we can do. Where do you think we're going to stand going forward with virtual meetings?
Well, I think I like the idea of in-person meetings because the fellowship is so much better. But virtual meetings are very, very convenient. So I suspect, much like some clubs have been doing even before the pandemic, that you will have the option to do an in-person meeting or a virtual meeting at the same time. So some people who can go to a meeting physically can enjoy that meeting virtually, but the physical meeting is still available. The good thing about the virtual meetings is that generally we see that more people are showing up for the club meetings. That's a good thing. More visitors are going to meetings, so you get more fellowship among Rotarians. Going back to the in-person physical meetings will be difficult, but I think it's necessary.
Okay. And I might add that the board of directors of Rotary International, their meeting last week, which was online, just like us on a Zoom call, except it was 3 hours a day for 5 days in a row. And they have created a pandemic task force that is going to look at the virtual meetings, the world we live in today, and make a recommendation to the board in October as to what we should completely change going forward based on what we're doing today. Because most clubs that I visit, and I think most of us have had this opportunity, are telling us that they're seeing members on the online meetings that they haven't seen in years.
Yeah, and so maybe you can just have the online meetings and then all your club projects would be in person.
Yeah. So I think you're going to see Rotary make a slight transition to a little different model.
Yeah,
that'll be the recommendation to the board anyway. There's kind of tied into virtual meetings. There was a comment made, not a question, that if you want to do Zoom meetings in your club, and if you go through Global Rewards, you can get a 20% discount from Zoom. Now the basic is only 40 minutes and 100 people, but you can, I think, $15 a month to get the next. But like I said, there's a 20% discount. However, I just wanted to warn you that the board of directors of Rotary International has decided that the Global Rewards program will be phased out over time. So if you can use anything on Global Rewards, and you get discounts in a lot of places, use it now because it is going to phase out.
Yeah, but also, Barry, people don't just have to use Zoom. I mean, Google just announced something called Google Meets, which is free. Right. So the other platforms that they can use to do virtual meetings and not incur cost.
Absolutely, no question of that. There's one called Kudo that does automatic translation for you. You choose whatever language and you get your translation. So there's a lot of opportunities to do different things. There was a comment made also that we should go after past members who've left your Rotary Club for whatever reason. And now you've improved your club and it's much more exciting and relevant. Now's the time to go back and bring them back in. I
agree, fully agree.
Okay. What was the question? I'm not sure. Yes, Charles.
Yeah, just so in going after your past members, it isn't also necessary that you have to re-invite them to Rotary because they may still not be able to. But the beauty of a past member is they understand what it is we do. So they're a huge resource for support for the various projects that you want to do, whether it's an in-kind donation or even their hands. And so they may be able to partner in projects with you, may still not be able to join the club, rejoin the club, but they're a huge resource to be able to extend what it is you'd like to do.
There was
And Barry, sorry, Barry, before I go to the next question, I just saw a comment from Audley Knight. So maybe you can get him to introduce himself to the members so they know who the Rotary membership officer is.
Absolutely. Not only would I like to introduce him, but I am so proud of our own Audley Knight for the position he's taken in Rotary International. So Audley, could you come on and tell us a little about what your role is and how you're going to take our districts to the next level? Does he need to be unmuted?
Yes, I think so. I'm looking for him.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, yes, I'm unmuted. Thank you very much, Past President Barry and Felix. The information is excellent. From where I'm sitting, I support zones 25A, which is out in Mexico, 33 and 34. And it's wonderful that I got excellent training and guidance and feedback from the persons on this call from District 7020, but in essence from the Caribbean. And just to share a little bit, when the District Governor Felix was the DG in that year, I was actually his assistant governor. So I'm just very, very happy to be here, and I am very excited about Rotary, and Rotary is flowing through my veins. So it just so happens that I'm now employed to Rotary International, which helps a lot. And again, I assist with membership engagement, club flexibility, resources. So anything at all that you may need, please do not hesitate. Send me an email. I'll be able to assist. So anything at all that you may need. I know DGE Charles is coming in and Lyle from 7030. If there's anything at all you may need, trust me. And the good thing is the Caribbean 7020 and 7030, we're doing pretty well when we compare ourselves to the North American market. So we are obviously doing a lot of things well here, especially from the standpoint of diversity and the ladies in Rotary. So again, I'm just very, very excited. I just wanted to share one quick thing with you that I've seen work. And I know PDG Felix mentioned it, the health check, and there's that resource on Rotary.org. But if you ever did a quick little check, and I have this little form that I've seen work, it's a simple sheet that says what you'd like to start, what you'd like to stop, what you'd like to continue, with possibly one line for comments. I've seen this little sheet of paper take up 2 or 3 hours in a club assembly. And it was said before, just find out from your members. So from the discussion before, finding out from your members what they need or what's happening is an excellent way to start your year since 1 July. And with data, you can go to your board and your club to say, 50% of our members said this, 80% of our members have said that, and you can go to your club and your board with data. So again, if there's anything at all that you may need, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. I'm here to assist. And with guidance from the district that's here, I'm sure 7020 and 7030 will have an awesome year going into 2020 and 2021.
They don't leave yet. In fact, 7020 and 7030 are bright lights in our zone. But one thing I would like for you to talk to very briefly, that I think we need to improve on, is membership leads. Want to talk to that very briefly? Someone mute him.
We need to unmute Audley again?
Yeah.
Nige, somebody.
And someone unmute him?
I'm trying.
It's tough to find somebody amongst 375 people.
No, he's on my screen, but I can't unmute him.
Audley, you may have to unmute yourself.
There we go.
Audley, I think you need to unmute it.
Yeah, I saw it now. Okay. Membership leads is just one other way or another avenue where persons who are interested in Rotary want to know about Rotary and want to join. It's a nice sheet when someone goes onto Rotary.org, They'll click join. That information goes to Rotary International. A senior officer at Rotary International assesses the information and assigns it to a district. So between District 7020 and 7030, there has to be a process in place and a communication plan as to how to deal with these leads. So the district leadership will get the email first. They'll be able to click on it, assess where that lead needs to go, and then assign it to the club. So if the district officer just forwards that email to a club president, they will not have access. That district officer needs to actually go into the platform, click two buttons to change the status and assign it to the club. Now, it's about 57% of the persons that come through on the leads are under 40, and about 30+% are ladies. So the persons that are coming in from the leads are exactly what we need to continue our level of diversity through 7020 and 7030. So when you do see these leads coming from the private sector, I'd see these leads as sales leads. So if you sell insurance or computers or software, these persons are already sold on Rotary. We just need to make contact with them to see if they are best fit for your particular club. So again, if you need any information about leads or details on it, please do not hesitate. Send me an email and I'd be happy to go through some information and send you some forms specific to your district, your area as an AG, and your club specific as a club as well, going into 2020 and 2021.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Audley. Well, we've had quite a night. A lot of information, a lot for everybody to digest. And take it all serious. Think about it, mull it over, see how you can use it for your club and how you could make positive change for your club for the future. Because no matter how good you are, we could always get a little better. So keep asking yourself that, how much have you learned? But take it to the club with you so you can actually make the changes we're talking about. So I thank you all for your attention. Felix, thank you so much for a fantastic presentation tonight. That was excellent. And DG Charles, thanks for helping out with the question. Dudley, thank you so much. I'm glad everybody sees you because they should be standing proud for where you are in the Rotary world today. And, you know, some may accuse me of not being appropriate in introducing. If we were in a general session, we would introduce our wonderful Louis Weaver, who's incoming. We would introduce our current district governor, Delma, and of course 7030's current and future, and all the past district governors who might be with us. It's just more difficult and cumbersome, and so I apologize to anybody who isn't happy with that. But we're going to try to keep this less formal and recognize our presidents, secretaries, and treasurers, because they're the ones who really run this organization. It's been a great night. Check your schedules. Make sure you know when you're coming back. I think I'm back here tomorrow with 7030. Saturday morning, we're back again with 7020 and 7030. And we continue to go. This is a great opportunity, and we want to reach everybody. Thank you all for staying all the way through. I mean, we got to 389, and we're only down to 360. So most everybody stayed with us all the way through. You're going to be so well prepared. You're going to make us proud like we always do. I love looking at that zone report and seeing the top 3 districts of the 3 districts in the Caribbean. That is precious. And I can't say that to all the Zoom meetings I go to, okay? I have to be careful. But in this zone, I could say, fantastic job, guys. We're doing it, and we need to keep doing it and showing the Rotary world this is the place to be, because Rotary is doing it right. Thank you all. Thank you for your night.